Hey guys, welcome to the Homestead. Today we're going to talk about Humanure and composting toilets. This is our composting area right here. I'm going to walk you through it and then we're going to answer a viewer's question. This is going to be fun. So what you see behind me here are rows of compost bins where we put all of our humanure, our human waste, both urine and the poop together, and we allow that to cook down. Each bin will sit for an entire year, and as it does that, the temperatures inside of that composting bin heat up and kill all the pathogens, bacteria, anything harmful that would exist inside of that waste, and basically over a year's time turn it into soil. So this is our area. This is what we have developed over the last couple of years. And recently, Tim has come through and upgraded this and added some more bins. And now I have growing boys now in the homestead, so they produce a lot more than they used to. And so I'm going to walk you through kind of what we have here, how we do this on a daily, weekly basis. And then right now I'm going to go ahead and read a question because the answer to this question will kind of entail all this and break it down for you. That's kind of interesting based on what we're talking about. So, okay, here we go. This is from Amber. Now, she has a Homestead channel. It's called The Homestead Life. I think she's on Facebook and probably YouTube as well. I'm not sure, but I'll include links to that below. She says, Amber writes in and she says, we currently have a very rustic composting toilet. There are 5 of us, and while our system is working good for the moment, we want to build a better system when we build our permanent off-grid home. I was wondering what system y'all use. So she mentioned also in her email that she had gotten a permit for a septic system. I guess based on where they live, they have to get that ahead of time before they build the house. Otherwise, they can't get it later. I'm not sure what all is involved with that. And that is important because we have to understand that there are different rules and regulations and zoning requirements based on where you live. No place is going to be the same. Every place is going to be different. And so you need to look into what your zoning regulations and regulations are where you live. Now, the good news is that because so few people do Humanure, there's very little regulations in most places. So it's not something you really have to worry about all that much. But it is something I would look into just to be safe. The other good news is that there are lots of studies out there done on Humanure. Scientific studies, papers published by universities. There's a very popular paper out there. I think it was published in 2013, maybe, I'm not sure. But it was published by Cornell University, which is an Ivy League school. And so these studies and papers hold a lot of weight. So that if you ever did get in trouble with your local municipality or regulatory authorities, zoning authorities, you do have a lot of ammunition that you can use to put out there and say, hey, the studies say this. If we do it this way, then, if we do it the proper way, proper methods, based on these studies, it's very safe. And it's actually safer than your regular sewer treatment, the way things are done today. So that's important. How do we do our system? Well, we have this composting system here, and so we have about 6 buckets, regular Home Depot buckets. And we use sawdust, okay? We get a brand new bucket and we put a little bit of sawdust in the bottom, and then that bucket goes into our rotation. And once it's filled, every time you do your business, especially number 2, you put a little bit of that sawdust to cover up what you've done in the bucket. And when that bucket is full, we take those buckets out here, and we have a bin that we're using for the time being. It changes as they fill, and then we dump that content into that bin and then cover it with hay. So what you're doing here is you're using the carbon from the wood chips, okay, and the hay, which is nitrogen, and you're combining that together, and it produces an amazing ability to cook down, heat up that soil or that waste and turn it into soil. So that's what all of these studies are going to show you. A proper amount of nitrogen, a proper amount of carbon mixed together with that waste. The bacteria goes to work, and boom, it renders itself completely harmless based on the heat. And so we let it cook down. Some people say you can let it cook down for 9 months. We let it cook down for an entire year. And once that process is finished, we then take that material that is now dirt and use it on places like fruit trees, blackberries, landscaping, things like that. And so that's what we use it on. Now, some people will tell you that it's safe to use on your garden, and it may be. But just for safety's sake, we don't do that. Just in case there was a pathogen or some kind of E. coli or whatever bacteria that would be harmful, we don't put that on our garden. Especially if we're going to be sharing any of our vegetables, which we often do. I wouldn't want to get someone else sick. So you got to be careful about that. But if you're using it on fruit trees, blackberries, landscaping, it's completely fine. You're not going to have to worry about any of that stuff, especially if you let this compost the way it needs to compost. Let's take a look at some of the bins. So you'll notice first that we have a gate, and this gate goes the fence goes all the way around here to keep the chickens out, because chickens love to get in here and dig and scratch because there's worms, there's bugs and things like that. Of course, obviously, because it's manure, and they like to eat those. So we want to keep the chickens out as much as possible. So we have a gate here. Tim installed all this, and open the gate, and we come to our bins. This first bin here has been cooking for a long time, and you can see that there's like a fence kind of on top of it to kind of keep the chickens, if they did get in, from scratching or whatever. And there's a rock on top to keep it weighted down. But this has been cooking forever. Now, when this thing was full, when we filled this up, it was right up to the top, right up here. And so you can see after a full year of cooking down, this thing has dropped about 1.5 feet. That's how you know it's working. That's your proof right there. So nice, very nice construction. You can see how organized this all looks, how clean this all looks. We have wood chips as the floor when you walk in here, so you don't have a lot of weeds growing up in here. But these are mostly all cooked down. This one's about ready. This one probably is ready soon. I'm not sure how much longer. Tim keeps track of the dates, but this won't be here much longer. We'll empty this out soon. And so you see these bins that are full. They're full. And the bin we're working on right now is this one. So this bin, you can see that there's straw been placed on top, and the next loads will come in here probably today, because I have to empty some buckets out today, and we'll put the buckets, empty them on here, we'll spread it out evenly, and then we'll put straw on top. So the straw combined with the wood chips produces an excellent carbon nitrogen mix to allow this to break down evenly. Very good. So there it is, and there's the trash can we use for the straw, or the hay. So we grab some hay, put it on top, cover it up, and let it cook. Now these are new bins over here. These have not yet been used. We will, once this one's full, we'll go ahead and start using these. We could probably empty this one out. I'm not sure. Again, Tim is the one who keeps track of this, but he can decide whether or not to use this right away or let it sit for a little bit longer. I'm not sure. But we do have all these extra bins here that we can use if these get filled up too quickly. But again, each one sits for a full year. And then here is another barrel of straw. Now here we have a water barrel, a water tank that collects rainwater off of this outhouse. This is an outhouse that we allow guests to use when they come and they camp and they stay on our homestead. And so once we bring our buckets out and we empty our buckets, we use this to rinse out the buckets and then place that rinse water again into the bin. Okay, so it doesn't go on the ground, it goes right into the bin. And this is where we rinse that out. And then once it's rinsed out, we can put the bucket back into circulation. So what about materials? Well, the materials we use are, number one, wood chips. There's a place not too far from us that makes hickory wood handles, for like axe handles, shovel handles, things like that. And they have really small wood chips. It's bigger than sawdust. It's not really sawdust, but it's wood chips. And hickory, the hickory wood works great. Hickory just has an amazing ability to absorb odors and to keep smell from really permeating through the house. When I first learned about Humanure, I was absolutely against it, but my wife Jamie had done a lot of research into this and assured me that this was going to be okay because again, there is a lot of research out there on the internet about it. So hickory is probably our top choice. Our second top choice for a material to cover up inside your buckets, inside your home for a Humanure would be pine shavings. Pine shavings, again, have a very good smell to them. They're really good about soaking up odor and preventing smells from escaping, just getting around your house and everything like that. So, and they're very absorbent as well, too. So pine shavings is really good. You can get bags of pine shavings at like Tractor Supply and other stores, big bags of pine shavings, and I think 2 bags will last us, on the occasion that we have used them, 2 bags will last us, a couple of weeks, 3 weeks maybe. So, they really compact a lot of pine shavings in those big bags. So you can use that. Oak, if you can get oak, oak really does not do a whole lot for odor. In fact, I think it actually increases the odor. So I would tell people to stay away from the oak. Other than that, the other materials, hay is pretty abundant in most agricultural areas. If you live in a rural area, you can pretty much get hay, and hay is great to put down on this to help cook it down, to cover it up. I'm not so sure about using hay as covering up for in your bucket, but a combination of the hay to cover up when you dump it into your bins, and then to the wood chips to cover up when you're using it in your house. That carbon nitrogen mix works really well at helping to break this down and help absorb odors and allow this to get to dirt as quickly as possible. So there you go. We've been using this system now for about over 5 years, and it's worked out tremendously well. I'm not gonna, bash anybody who decides not to use it, because I understand there's some stigma, associated with this, and it may be a little bit way too out of the norm for some people, so that's okay. However, septic systems are very, very expensive, and if you want to save the money, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars that it would require to build permitted or zoned correctly or installed correctly septic system by your county, counties that have different ordinances on those sort of things, you're really going to save a lot of money by using a system like this. And in most area, again, there's no regulations or zoning for stuff like this. They don't have a lot of laws on it because most people don't use it. And if you were ever challenged about this, there are plenty of studies out there, scientific studies, university published studies that you can use as ammunition to show that if properly done, this can be very, very safe and effective. All right, guys, we'll leave it at that. Hope that's answered all your questions. If you have other questions, leave a comment below. I'll try to get to them if I can, or otherwise, I'll point to other videos where maybe we've answered those questions in the past. All right, guys, see you next time on the Homestead.